Hey folks, it's Tom, your frugal prepper. So, a few things to go over. Oh, where do we start? I got some new tools. I've actually gotten quite a few new tools just lately that I haven't really shown. But back when I got my set of sockets for 20 cents, there was two that were on back order. Back in October, they finally came in at Sears. Got me a 6mm 6.3/8 drive and a 19mm shallow impact, just because I need them. I lost my shallow impact and I think I broke the 6mm. And I've got me a dial bore gauge set. This is a metric one. It was just cheaper, so I got metric, which is fine because just about all engines have your measurements in boats nowadays, or you can convert. But it comes with this gauge. It's not the best quality. It's fresh off the boat from Tiny, but yeah, I mean it works. Yeah, has the different adapters. So this goes from 50 to 160 millimeters, and then it's got your different adapters there for different size pistons or cylinders. I always wanted a dial bore gauge, and I figured, you know, this is a pretty cheap one, and it seems accurate enough from the little bit that I played with it. You know, you might not buy something like this if you're rebuilding engines every day, but if you're tearing one down and you're just trying to quickly assess whether it needs to go to the machine shop to be bored out, or if it's even at a tolerance where it can be bored out, or if it's, you know, done for, or if maybe it doesn't need bored out, you could just hone it yourself. I figure for no more engines than I rebuild, this will probably last me the rest of my life, or until I drop it. Right? It was like 12 bucks, free shipping on the slow boat from Tiny. I guess they do have some that are in standard measurements too, but metric's fine because, like, this engine I'm building, it gives all the measurements and the specifications in metric and in standard. So I'm fine with that. So I made a critical mistake in the assembly of the bottom end of this engine. I can't say it's critical, but it's annoying. This would be specific only to LD9, quad 4s, pretty much. I mean, I haven't had a bunch of engines apart to know how their oil pumps work. But I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so in this engine there is a balance shaft that will go on here on top, and the oil pump will run off of the balance shaft. So what we've got, let me get this out, this thing's heavy. It's way heavier than it looks. Oh. So essentially the balance shaft sits on here, like so. Alright, it has a sprocket that goes right here, and that turns these counter shafts. And that's what keeps the engine balanced. And you have to put that in time with the pistons. There's a procedure for that. And you have to have a special tool that you put on the back of the balance shaft to hold them while you set it in time. And I got that tool on eBay. And I think I paid about 30 bucks for it, but I plan to list it back on eBay when I'm done and sell it, because I'll probably never need it again. So this is a chain on the crankshaft that drives this sprocket. Now if you look at the position of that sprocket on the crank that's going to drive the sprocket on the balance shaft, do you see what my problem might be? I've already put main caps on. There's no way to install this chain around the crankshaft without pulling the crank. This should have went on before I tightened all my main caps down. And it would have been annoying because it would have been flopping around in the way. But that's just kind of the way this has to work. There's no way to sneak this in here by just taking the one cap off, because you can't get past the bottom end of that bearing. So that would mean a complete disassembly, remove the crank, and reassemble. But I'm thinking what I may be able to do. The book does not give a procedure for actually replacing this chain. It's got how to tension it, how to replace the tensioners for it, how to do the balance shaft, all that, but there's no procedure listed for actually replacing the chain like in the car. Either in my factory service manual, or on Chilton's, or in All Data. So, I thought maybe they had a secret. But I think what I would do if I was replacing this in the car is get the transmission away from the back of the engine, right? Get the flex plate off, and get this cover here off, which is like an oil cover that seals up here. And then I would loosen all of these main journals and just drop that crank down about an inch or so. These bolts should be plenty long enough for that. They started threading way out. And then just let that crank come down. Kind of like when you do a two-piece oil seal, you have to let the crank down. I used to do some of those on the old Ford 2300 engines. They always leak. And then you could like tap that top one out of there once you had it a little loose. I think you can drop that crank down a little bit, and I should be able to slip this chain in past that journal and up to this sprocket. And that'll save me from having to remove all the pistons and stuff again. So what I'll probably do is this journal by the sprocket would have to come off to give me nice access. And then I'll take like a couple more of these loose and just leave a couple snugged up. Like I'll break them loose, snug them up. Then we'll flip the engine upside down and I'll work from underneath so that gravity's in my favor. And then just slowly loosen the 4 bolts of the 2 remaining caps so that the crank just lowers down on those caps right in that bearing race. Then slip the chain in, and then I can tighten those 2 back up snug, flip it back over, put the rest of the caps back on, torque them, angle them, and it should be good to go. If I run into any problems and it's just not working out, then by all means we'll either pull the pistons or push them down far enough that I can get clearance to get the crank in and out. I don't know. See, if you get this sideways to where they're partway down, you can't really get the bolts out. So I guess you have to take the bolts out at the top, put it down. Probably better just to pull the pistons out and put them back in again. And go through that whole mess all over. It's frustrating when you've done all that work and then you've got to do it again, but you know, live and learn. So if you are rebuilding one of these quad 4s, don't forget to put that chain in. The oil pan for this guy seemed to go to the machine shop and never come back. I don't know what happened or if my friends even had a chance to ask him yet. But I had an issue, if you remember, when I tore this down. I snapped this. This is the bolt that goes in the sprocket for the balance shaft. And I snapped this bolt off. It's reverse threaded. I hit it with an impact and goodbye. And so I pulled this oil pan off at the junkyard to get this bolt. Check this out, man. There's shrapnel in here. Pieces of timing chain tensioner laying in the bottom of the oil pan. And you know why this thing was in the junkyard, huh? Check that out. It's full of it down in here. Oh, somebody dropped an O-ring down in their oil pan too. Look at that. All kinds of crap in this thing. But anyway, I'm going to clean this oil pan off. I figured while I was getting that bolt that I needed, I would go ahead and just take the oil pan home with me. Then I don't have to worry about getting the one back from the machine shop. It's probably laying around there somewhere. Got thrown off to the side, I bet. But yeah, I'll just clean that one up real good, and I'll be set there. The other thing is my gaskets came in. So I like to use all these parts I've used so far have been from this place called Car Parts Wiz on eBay. I've always had great luck with their engine parts, and they're very reasonably priced. But this is my complete gasket set, and then the head gasket's actually upside down under this guy. But yeah, nice looking gaskets. I mean, I look at these, I mean, and their gaskets are every bit as good as like a Felpro or something. Probably not as good as an OEM, but those are probably made in China too. But yeah, it's a nice looking gasket set. I've always been happy with their gaskets. I've never had any problems. I have had problems with other brands of cheap gaskets on eBay leaking and stuff though. I've had one of their head gaskets fail before, but it was on a block that was at its limit for warpage. I mean, right at its limit, so it probably should have been flattened. Should have been milled or sanded or whatever they do. But other than that, everyone I've used when I put on head gaskets and stuff, they've worked great. Never had any issues. So now that's got my valve stem seals in it, so I can get my head to the machine shop. And it also came with it came with some of this Permatex sealant. There are places on this motor where it calls to use that, the Ultra Gray, and it came with all the torque to yield bolts for the motor. So this complete gasket set with the bolts and the Ultra Gray, this all cost me $89 shipped. So you just can't beat it, man. It's really a good deal. The tricky part on these, finding the gaskets, was just about everybody on eBay had them for the engine with EGR, but nobody had them for the engine that's without EGR. So basically, in your communist states, California for sure, probably New York, any place that follows California emissions, they had to sell these cars with an EGR valve to meet the emissions. Everywhere else, they were able to sell them without. So it was a little tricky finding one without. But I think the only difference that I could see was the intake gasket and the exhaust gasket. Have a blank spot where the EGR stuff would normally be, so you could probably just buy those separate somewhere, like at AutoZone. But I did, after much looking around, I called Car Parts Whiz, and they threw up an auction just for me with the correct gaskets for the non-EGR motor, and they've left that auction up there since. So it might just be one of those things I didn't even realize, that they didn't have the right gaskets up there that most people actually need. Alright, so now that I kind of showed you everything that's going on, we'll have a little garage talk about the projects and videos that are going to be coming up on the channel. It's good. I know this is kind of lately turning into a tool and automotive channel rather than a prepping channel, but this channel is really just about what goes on in my life of trying to be prepared and save money. So I try to be frugal and I try to prepare, and it's frugal prepper. So fixing my cars so I don't have to buy new ones is part of being frugal. But I also like to help others out. So sometimes I work on others' cars and, you know, stuff like that. So it's my channel. That's what it's about right now. Next video I'll probably be getting this chain in, right? And maybe getting the balance shaft on, or maybe that'll be a separate video. It depends on how much time it all takes. Getting it put in time, getting the oil pump on. Basically getting this thing buttoned up and getting an oil pan on it. Then I got to do a bunch of work on the truck here at some point. It may be more towards spring. I don't know. But it's getting this vacuum leak on it's getting really bad. So it needs the upper intake gasket and the isolator bolts. It's got the 4.2 liter. It's the same as like a 3.8, right? Just bored over V6. It's a 2002 F-150. So, which has been a good engine. I mean, the truck's got 369,000 miles on it. No, 359,000 miles on it. The odometer actually clicked on the other day, and I could read it for a minute, and then it clicks off. And it does that once in a great while. But most of the time, it doesn't work. So I'm like, wow. I thought it was more like 340 or something, tops. But yeah, she still runs. I've never replaced anything major. You know, brakes, tires, alternator, serpentine belt, couple of like rollers for the belt. And when it was brand new, like a week after I bought it, brand new, the gem module died in it, and the dealer replaced that. But that's all that's ever really been wrong with that truck. Broken brake line. Other than that, every time I've turned the key, it's always started. But the EGR valve's been messed up since about 50,000 miles. I need to fix that. Need to get that intake done. I haven't put plugs and wires on it. I put them on at 100,000, so it's got 259,000 miles on the plugs and wires. So I'm thinking I'll probably go ahead and do those. It does have a small oil leak in the rear main seal. I'll probably just leave that. Not going to worry about it. And it's had low compression on one cylinder for about the last 150,000 miles or so. But I just put that engine restore in it like every other oil change or so, and the compression's come back up quite a bit. It's not quite as good as the others, but it runs okay. But yeah, that one might be my next rebuild project. I gotta fix the transmission linkage under the dash where the shifter is all loose and it likes to not go in gear and it slips out of park sometimes. Poor truck. I got a friend with the Chevy Venture. It's the one I did the heads on, I don't know, about 3 years ago maybe. He ran it out of antifreeze. I don't know if the head was bad, is why it burned up the antifreeze, or if it had a leak. But anyway, we put antifreeze in it, and it started blowing exhaust bubbles out the radiator. So it's going to need heads and or head gasket. I'll be doing that again. And the PT Cruiser is leaking oil. Doesn't look like it's coming from the oil pressure switch. It looks to me right now like it's coming from the corner of the head where the oil port is. I think it may need another head put on it, another head gasket. But I'm going to wait to take it over to my friend mechanic when he has time. It's not leaking very bad yet. We're talking a half to 3/4 of a quart in between oil changes. Not a big deal. But I'll take it over, have him look at it, see what he thinks. We can get up on the lift, maybe see a little better. I'm hoping maybe that's not it, but it's looking that way. So, yeah, there's all kinds of car work coming up. And so I guess my channel's going to kind of become the frugal auto repair channel for a while. I mean, you know, my channel's about saving money and about trying to be prepared for everyday life. I'm not an end-of-the-world prepper, but I just try to be prepared to handle things myself and handle what comes up in life in general. And handle hard times and hardships and things like, oh, you lost your job, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm just prepared for normal life. And so that's kind of what my channel's about, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I guess it's going to be Frugal's Auto Repair for now. Maybe I should start a separate channel. I don't know. But my channel, of course, is one of those channels that kind of goes all over the place, which I think is why I don't have as many subs as some for as long as I've been doing it. Because some people watch my channel because they like gardening. Some people watch my channel because they like guns. Although I've pulled most of my gun videos down because YouTube won't monetize them, so I just take them down. Some people, watch my channel because they like tools, or they like working on cars, or, all different kinds of reasons. So I think I don't draw one big, particularly large crowd all the time. But that's okay. I'm happy and I like what I do. I like my channel. So I mainly just do it for fun, but I make a little extra money too, which is okay. So that's what's going on. Let me know what you think. I know it's kind of a rookie on that chain. You know, I tore it apart. I knew that I had to leave that chain on there until I pulled the crank out. Just never even thought of it the whole time I was putting that bottom end together. I guess it's kind of like leaving a spring out of a Trans Am, right? Anyway, at least I discovered it. Well, I guess I wouldn't have put the pan on without putting the balance shaft assembly in, but you know. So, I'll talk to y'all later. Everybody, be happy and be frugal out there.